I love a woman who enjoys pulling rank. That's kind of what we're going to do here. We're going to rank some things. Welcome, everybody, to a special edition of the Review to a Kill podcast. And this time around, we're also giving it a subtitle. This is From Recap with Love. This is the first of our tier list rankings that we're going to be doing here. We are going to go through all the films in this particular edition, and we're going to rank them from bottom to top. And we're actually going to put them in tier lists, and we're also going to do a Mount Rushmore. So we're going to get a lot covered on this episode. Strap yourselves in. You're going to join us for this journey, because you're not going to click off. That'd be horrible. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango. Joining me, as always, are Robert DeFelice.
Well, neither one of us is a woman, but I do enjoy a woman who loves pulling rank.
And Callum Wiggins.
Yeah, I've got nothing. The movies are over. The puns are done.
We've already ran through most of the puns that we can think of. That's literally the only one that I could think of when it comes to rank or tier list or list in general or any of those kind of things. Somebody, if you can think of one, and leave it in the comments below. But we're gonna dive into this, and we're not gonna go through a full explanation of all the reasons why we're ranking everything the way they are, because we've been talking about that along the way. So instead, we're going to kind of just touch on the major points for that and kind of explain a little bit of, like, you know, the big differentiating factors and things along that nature. We had gone through, for this particular edition, we are focusing on the films. We're going to do one for the Bond girls, we're going to do one for the villains, the henchmen, the allies, etc., etc. So the movies are kind of a little bit more, I guess, self-explanatory, because we've, talked at length about all these movies. So I figured what I would do here, I've got everything blank, or it's all there, but it's in white text. And we're going to kind of just reveal how these final rankings ended up going. And then we're going to show what our combo ranking was. Then we're going to get into the tier list side of things, which is just sort of settling things in its own separate other way. So going from bottom to top, I'm just going to go with the bottom couple here. This is how we were going for anybody that's checking out the screen right now. As you can see, Diamonds Are Forever, my lowest. Dr. No, Rob's lowest. You Only Live Twice, Callum's lowest. We got some crossovers from some things. Dr. No popping up all three of us in that bottom four. But we got some other ones where, Live and Let Die for Rob is in there. On Her Majesty's Secret Service for me. From Russia with Love for Callum. Differentiating factors there. Was there anything when you guys were going through and you guys were making your ultimate lists with these kind of things, that it was just like, okay, that is the thing that I have to make this one of the bottom things for? Like, for Callum, for instance, was it just like, okay, You Only Live Twice is just kind of way too racist, or, Dr. No is just too boring for Rob, or anything along those lines?
I don't know. Octopussy, for me, was just one of those films that I just couldn't get into it, so that was why it was one of my lowest. But, like, in case for you, you've got Diamonds Are Forever as your lowest movie. And really, in the months past, I quote that thing so much that I just couldn't ever put it at the bottom tier, because, like, it sticks in the memory. Like, Dr. No, I couldn't recall a thing outside of some of the really cringe, unacceptable parts today, like Fetch My Shoes. Like, I couldn't tell you much about Dr. No.
I think to rank them considerably really low down for me, it had to have something that was just so demonstrably bad, just something that was irredeemable about the movie in general. And Dr. No's down there because it was the first effort, and so it has historical value, but it is quite dull. It does just meander quite a bit. So, but I still enjoy it to a degree, and so pretty much all the ones above Dr. No I enjoy to some level and probably will watch again. The three at the bottom I just feel are really fatally flawed in one way or another, whether it's From Rushmore in Love having a love story which isn't in any way a real love story, Diamonds Are Forever just being batshit crazy and having a very helpless and I guess unhelpful, pretty useless Bond girl, and Yonina Twice being racist and having a horrible Blofeld. Like, this is the first real introduction to Blofeld on screen beyond just being a voice, and it's hideously bad. So
yeah, and for my end, Diamonds is just a mess in so many ways, and you get, like, I've said before, For Your Eyes Only is something that I don't connect with the villain. I don't understand why BB Doll is in there. I think that Columbo is just a much lesser version of Karim Bey. The music throws me off. And Dr. No is one of the more boring ones. I think On Her Majesty's Secret Service gets in there for me because it's my least favorite Bond, and I don't think that Tracy is fully realized as strong as she could be. Some other things that we're going to kind of debate back and forth because On Her Majesty's Secret Service, not as low on Callum's. So moving up to, I guess, like kind of the mid-range here. Where am I going with this on there? There you go. This is kind of another range. We're not going to just keep breaking down each individual one, but this is just to kind of give people a little bit of slow reveal of how our rankings ended up going. Of course, you could always just pause the video too. Not going to bother going that too slow of a pace, but you can start to see some trends forming of View to a Kill in the same kind of spots. We've got, say, some differences with like Live and Let Die being around there. So we kind of like bounced around a little bit with that one. Even on like On Her Majesty's Secret Service, going much higher up on Rob's list. We start getting into some major trends when we get to the top, actually, with some glaring differences, but suddenly we get World's Not Enough, Tomorrow Never Dies. Tomorrow Never Dies, and World's Not Enough. World's Not Enough. So, with the Golden Gun getting in the mix there too. And then finally we get our final top 4 for each individual ones. And of course, we figured out all the combinations. This is what we ended up coming around with. So let's reset this. The definitive bottom rank out of everything is Dr. No. Just mathematically, you got this spot, that spot, and that spot. If Rob would have put Diamonds Are Forever anywhere in this kind of range, I'm sure Diamonds Are Forever would have ended up being the worst. But he saved it.
It's not that bad of a film.
I think that we'd kind of argue that it is. But I will say I liked Dr. No a lot more this time around. So Diamond's the second worst. Die Another Day, we, of course, talked at length about all the flaws with Die Another Day. So we don't need to break down the same things. If you didn't check out the other ones, check out the other things. But You Only Live Twice, going down there really low because Callum's extremely low score for that one, and then we've got it both in these kind of spots. So carrying along here, and we're not going to break it down every single little element here, but we go up a little bit more. We got Quantum of Solace, not the strongest in the Craig era. Octopussy saved a little bit more from a high ranking on my side. Live and Let Die, I think I have that at the highest, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I think I do.
I'm a little surprised at how low I have Live and Let Die.
I am too, because, I have it higher because I always thought that it was kind of one of the more fun, goofy kind of ones. Not that, Diamonds Are Forever goofy, but fun goofy. View to a Kill, of course, since we all had that around the same range, that's going to be around that 15 range, so it ends up being 16, actually. Just kind of weird the way the math works, but you can see right here, this is how the math actually works. So, moving on up to the east side, we got Spectre, we got Spy Who Loved Me, From Russia with Love, which I have way high up compared to this, but Callum's really low ranking balances that out. We got Moonraker, etc., etc. Going up the mix here. that's where On Her Majesty's Secret Service mathematically comes out to because of my low ranking. So we balance each other out with From Russia with Love and On Her Majesty's Secret Service there, with
Yeah,
Rob
'cause
being
those
like
are dead in
literally
the center for
right
me.
in the center. So it's funny how that kind of works out. Callum gets a little bit of an edge because it goes up higher than From Russia with Love because he's got it higher up than I do for From Russia with Love. Higher score that I thought would be for The World's Not Enough, to be honest. Now, I have it a little bit lower than what it mathematically came out to, but I'm surprised because The World's Not Enough doesn't get a whole lot of love. And
That was really good. It was really good. And you told me I'd like it going into it, but I
Yeah, I have a
really
feeling
enjoyed
about
it
that.
more than you thought.
So, not to spoil the top ones yet, but you got TND, you got LTK, you got The Man with the Golden Gun. Man with the Golden Gun, one of those ones that we just kind of, I ended up pushing it a little bit lower than I had originally thought, but it's just a fun movie, you know?
It's one of the most solid Bond movies.
Of course, we'll tier list it a little bit later on, but our top 3, we get Skyfall. Again, makes sense. Just the math. So Callum's number 1 doesn't quite make it there because the top 2, naturally, GoldenEye and Casino Royale. And that is a hell of a strong top 3, I think. And a very surprising number 4. I never imagined that Man with the Golden Gun was going to be the number 4 on this. I figured Casino Royale, GoldenEye, Skyfall, that they were in the range of being the top 3. And then I kind of thought that number 4 was going to be something more along the lines of like a From Russia with Love. I was really shocked about Callum's reaction to From Russia with Love. I thought Goldfinger would be a little bit higher in the grand scheme of things. License to Kill, of course, and Living Daylights. Yeah, like things were ranked higher at certain points too. And then of course more movies come along and then, you know, there you go. Like it kind of works that way. But before we get into the tier list things, anything stand out to you guys as far as like interesting ways that it ended up placing?
I'm surprised that Thunderball and Goldfinger aren't a little bit higher, but that's early enough where maybe it didn't click with us as much as some of like the Brosnan ones would end up doing.
I think basically the math works out in the way that it does, so I'm not like super surprised based on how everything's been going along. If there's one that I'd put up slightly higher, well, obviously there's loads that I'd put up higher based on my rankings and stuff like that, but I think the Moonraker should be higher than the Right in the Center. But that's the only thing that I'd really, like, I don't want to say question, but
That's not too far off. You figure it's right here and here.
Yeah, but it's basically like, it's number 12 out of 24, so it's basically right in the center. It's the start of the top half. I would have thought, okay, maybe that's like top 10. I consider that maybe a top 10 one because I have it in the top 10, but that's like
it literally is your number 10.
Yeah, exactly.
The only other thing
Moonraker is a lot of fun. I think it's funny. Going back now, I'm like, the more ones are really good just because I enjoyed the fun element, even though I was ready to get away from it by the time View to Kill came around. The fun element can't be overstated.
I do think. Oh, good.
One of the most interesting things about this, at least from my perspective, is the fact that pretty much all the Connery movies are right towards the bottom.
Yeah.
Well, you got Goldfinger and Thunderball.
Yeah, Goldfinger and Thunderball are the other 2 ones, but all the rest of them are all nestled in the bottom half, and everyone. Obviously, he was the first Bond, so you would imagine that, but it's just a feeling of the fact that, at least the way we rank them, the majority of his movies are on the negative side of things.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's some people that, to them, Connery is the de facto 100% definitive Bond, and there's no questioning anything about it, kind of. And then for him to not have a higher ranking is kind of, to not have a single film in the top. No, I was going to say in the top 10, but no, Goldfinger and Thunderball are 9 and 10, but not a single one in the top 5. is still pretty surprising. A lot
I
of
think
people
it's
like
the way.
Goldfinger in particular. I'm sure a lot of people are just kind of like, how the hell do you guys not have Goldfinger higher? And it's like, well, I don't know, because we don't. Like, yeah.
Better movies came along. It's the combination of the movies don't hit as strongly because, obviously the first one is in '62 and so much has changed. And there's also like the racist elements, which totally killed You Only Live Twice for Callum. And from Russia with Love, that's not a love story in today's eyes. So it
Also,
changes.
Also in Goldfinger, Bond rapes a woman, so that's kind of the thing that pushes it quite far.
Not just a woman, but a woman named Pussy Galore, and it just you get to these weird. Okay, I don't know if I can get behind this entirely.
So that is how we kind of definitively rank them. Of course, we can't rank No Time to Die because it hasn't happened yet. But if we switch over to a tier list, now this works a little bit differently because it's not ranking each one of them on top of each other stacked up with like, okay, the debate between is Casino Royale or Skyfall better or is GoldenEye better or anything. No, these are just kind of getting them on the same level in a different way. So I figured we'd go 7 because it's 007, so why not? S tier, of course, top of the line. A tier, pretty much just a shy away from being top of the top, and then so forth, go down the whole thing. F tier being just flat out like, yeah, that sucked, like kind of irredeemable in a lot of ways, not in every way, but there's lots of problems with it, and it's not the one that you'd recommend to anybody that would be like trying to get into the series and when it comes to the other things we're going to do, it's just like our absolute least favorite things. So I figured we'd keep this in order of this to not look at the rankings and not definitively go like, okay, like, well, Casino Royale, let's go one by one and we'll just do that. Because maybe we end up making some arguments about things being a little bit differently without paying attention to how they actually rank one by one. So, Dr. No. And we could bounce around too. We don't have to go necessarily in this order. But Dr. No is something that I am assuming we don't go anywhere close to this range. I'm assuming it's somewhere around here. Where would you guys like to potentially put it?
I mean, I like the fact that you're saying like put it right around here when we have no idea where you're pointing to. So I assume that's just for the audience's benefit.
Yeah. Well, maybe
guys...
he's not aware of that, actually. Yeah, we're not seeing.
I thought you guys could see where I was doing that.
No, we're not.
So between the E and F tier.
Yeah, I would say so.
Well, my initial reaction as soon as I heard Dr. No, and I know what we've done in terms of the actual rankings, I thought D immediately.
I thought D, but there is also an E tier, so maybe E.
Well, another thing is we don't have to necessarily put anything in any of those tiers, too. So a movie like a Dr. No that we have at the very bottom of our list doesn't mean that it's F tier, it's so bad that it's just like an irredeemable type of thing. So, like, I'm totally cool with the idea of it being D tier, and D tier, like, setting the bar as, like, the low bar for everything.
Oh, no, it's not setting the low bar.
Well, you only live twice lower, but like,
well, no, but I think Dr. No's legacy elevates it beyond having to being in one of the bottom tiers, even if the quality doesn't mirror it being in D tier. It sets the tone for a lot of things. So,
and we could always adjust these too, as well, obviously.
Yeah, of course, but it feels wrong, despite the fact that we do have it consistently low down, and it is, as we've all mentioned, it's quite a boring, slow-paced movie, especially in comparison to a lot of the other ones that would mirror more of the quote-unquote Bond style going forward. I feel this movie's more a spy movie than a lot of the other movies. A lot of the other ones drift more into like the action thriller genre, whereas this one just feels like a guy going around actually doing detective work, figuring stuff out. Of course, it has some really stupid things to do with not knowing how radiation works.
Hey, just wash it off. Come on. Everybody knows
Yeah,
that.
why-
You
why
didn't
won't-
learn that in school?
Why weren't these guys around when Chernobyl happened? It's just
They were in the shower. What do you think?
Jesus.
yeah. To be fair, that like 5 minute long shower scene is a little bit
Right. Does that help it? Is there,
it doesn't help. It doesn't help certainly, but it's one of the most. It's memorable to me, like because that first iconic thing that we kind of just kept going back to, just that this guy's hands doesn't work, and that's the reason he died.
So I guess, I mean, like I
hilarious.
said, we could always change things around. Your vote, Callum, is D tier for right now, at the very
Yeah.
least.
My vote is D tier right now.
I would say E.
I think I'll go D with the potential of going lower because, again, literally
It
just
won't go
said
any
it.
higher than that.
No, it's definitely not going to go higher than that. That's for sure. Again, we don't have to go through the From Rushmore with Love, whatever like that. I say let's throw an S tier on there. Obviously, the way that it's ranked with the way that we are, let's just go ahead and put Casino Royale on S tier. You know?
Yeah, that's not going to change. Yeah, so.
Yeah, it just about belongs there.
I mean, just about belongs there. It defines the S tier.
Oh, okay. I'm not arguing it. I'm just kind of trying to downplay a little bit. Don't have to like completely. Oh my God, it was the movie. I think there's one that's just a wee bit better, but I would say Casino Royale is definitely S tier.
That's the one that I'm gonna. Yeah, well, that's the one that I'm gonna put a spanner in the works on. But I know it's going to end up there. But that's the one that I will be slightly less in favor of.
Well, I mean, should we just go ahead and say it? GoldenEye, of course.
GoldenEye.
Rob and I are putting on S tier for sure.
GoldenEye defines what a James Bond film should be.
Yeah. If we're supposed to take the entire word spy out of his job description in the first place, then yeah, that's what a Bond. No, that's what Die Hard's supposed to be. Is what GoldenEye is.
Hey, Die Hard's a good movie.
I'm not saying it's a good movie. It's just not a Bond movie. I say definitively, GoldenEye would be on my A tier. So I don't mind it being in the S tier in general. So I'm not saying it's a bad movie by any stretch of imagination. It's just not. It just doesn't characterize the Bond genre to me. It's just a really good action movie.
So Skyfall, I had made the argument before about like some of the flaws that I have with it. I still say Skyfall most likely goes into S tier, but I'd be willing to put it in A tier.
Well, my opinion hasn't changed considering the fact that it's got number one for me. But I just think that it's the best Bond movie and it's the best overall story that they tell throughout the series. So I would put it in S tier.
Skyfall is S tier, and you're definitely not going to get a better Craig film. I haven't even seen No Time to Die yet. I'm almost certain there's no way.
Oh, that's 2 votes for S tier, and me being like, I'd be up for S tier kind of thing. So there you go. That's an S tier.
I feel like those will be the 3 that kind of going to define that tier.
That's the next thing I was going to say was I don't think that we can make the argument for another one being an S tier for the 3 of us combined, because to me, I personally put License to Kill in S tier, but I think that the most I can justify when it comes to the rankings and stuff is I would say License to Kill goes in A tier. I know that Callum doesn't feel quite the same.
No, I'm not enamored with the Dalton run as Bond. License to Kill is definitely better than Living Daylights,
which I would also actually make the argument for A tier.
Yeah, and I would say that both. That I would say if it was on my tier list, they'd both be sitting in C tier. Maybe License to Kill would get into B tier, but like Living Daylights would definitely be no higher than C. It's bland as fuck.
I'd make the argument Living Daylights is a high B.
So if I said A for both, would you back me up on that, Rob?
Definitely A for License to Kill, but I think we could end up pushing Living Daylights to a B tier.
I'll put it on A for now. I'll go put everything on the higher tier that it's at, and we could always lower because we'll be optimistic. Why not? So I don't know. Anybody want to toss out where they want to put another one on? Well, you know what? I'll toss out another one of them. Diamonds Are Forever.
See,
I would say
I know
D.
Rob will be different in that.
I
Yeah,
would say D. Like it, I had a lot of fun with it. From the minute I saw the trailer, I had a lot of fun with it.
I think it's an F.
I think it's an F.
So
To
maybe we
me-
put it in E for now.
Maybe an E.
To me, the argument is it's fun, but it's dumb. And if they didn't have a few things in it that I find some of the most like offensively bad stuff in the Bond films, then it wouldn't be as bad. But like Blofeld dresses up as an old granny to try to capture Tiffany Case. And
Have a black woman in chains as a
as
sideshow
it
attraction.
turns into a gorilla. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
Okay. All right. Okay, we're not putting in D tier just after recalling that, but
Now, like, if we just went with like some moments, it's like, oh, I got a brother. That's B tier. I speak English. That's A tier.
S tier.
You know, like.
Yeah.
But I think we got to go F for.
all right.
I mean, I don't mind putting it in E for now because I know Rob likes it a bit more.
Yeah, okay, let's put it in E.
Again, being optimistic for the time being, but I think it
Yeah.
will end up in the F tier eventually. But we'll see for now.
We'll see for now. Put it in C tier. Yeah, so Rob really doesn't like Octopussy. I don't think
just thought it was
Octopussy
bland.
should be anywhere near E or F tier. I do think it's weak in its own ways, but I would put Octopussy more likely in, based off of where we end up going with the A and B tier, I'd go, it's not higher than C.
I'd put it in D.
I think D works for me as well. I don't think it's a particularly memorable movie.
I can see putting it in D. I'll put it in D for now. The 3 vote too. Where should we go next?
I've got one that might be controversial.
Okay.
I think Die Another Day should be an F. Because even though we have it ranked higher than some of the other movies, I think that's due to the fact that, well, first of all, it's got Brosnan in it, and Brosnan is a very good Bond. And it does have some cool special effects, and it's of the time. But I think for the time in which the movie is made, there is no excusing some of the stuff that happens in that movie. It doesn't have some of the outs that a lot of the earlier Bond movies have because of the fact that it's either like from a different time or it's like there are some production issues, but you can kind of, because like, oh yeah, they didn't really have any other option than to do stuff like this. Whereas some of the CGI, some of the characters, Mr. Kill, like it's just it's so out. It's such an outsider from everything else that Brosnan did as Bond that I feel like it really I don't want to say tarnishes his legacy because the other 3 movies are great, but it's just a case of it really puts that little thing of like, oh, they really just didn't know what they were doing with this one.
I think I'd lean more towards E. I do definitely think Octopussy is a better movie than Die Another Day. Let me double check to see where my ranking is on that, have the differences between that. So I've got Die Another Day at 20. I've got Octopussy at 14. So, like, yeah, I definitely would say Die Another Day shouldn't be on the same tier as Octopussy for having that kind of a difference. I don't know if I'd go full on F tier, because we don't have an F tier one yet. And I do think that if I'd put anything on F tier, I'd put Diamonds more than Die Another Day. Because I do like some elements of Die Another Day. You just happen to fuck it all up with some of the other ones.
Mojito?
Yeah, see, Mojito, it's great. The amount of times that I have said Mojito since watching that movie again is absurd. It's one of the like major takeaways that I've had for this whole thing.
It's if we ever were to just talk about our memes, basically, that have come out of this series, it's amazing. Die Another Day in F. I'd maybe go E. I don't think it's a full F.
I'm just trying to think of it like contextually, because like just because they're nuts and bolts, it is better than a lot of the movies that we have ranked below it. But I just feel like that you can't. If it's even like somewhere pushing that down at that point in time when you're making movies, then something's gone horribly wrong. You have so much more to play with than the old one. You've got so much bigger budgets than the other ones.
They wanted. I really think it was like, oh, it's been 20 years since more. Let's do camp, and then they had a bullet do 3D without it being 3D in the gun barrel, and I immediately said, "Oh, we're in for a trip here."
I mean, it's comparative to Diamonds Are Forever in the fact that like the main villain changes his face.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
So
And it's got diamonds in it. It's got a satellite in it. It's
bad.
So I guess, well, for now, where would you rank it? E or F? We're going somewhere around there. So one vote for E.
No, I would put it in F, but I know it's not going there at the top for the time being.
So a vote for E and a vote for F. I'll go E for now. I think we should hold off on Her Majesty's Secret Service because it's a very divisive one. Same thing with From Russia with Love. What about Goldfinger? Because that one, it's highly, highly revered, but we do have it in the middle range. But that doesn't mean that it has to be a middle range of this. It doesn't have to mean that it's C tier. We could have, 10 things in A tier if we really wanted to. I wouldn't go A tier for Goldfinger. I'd go probably B, but I could see an argument for A.
I'd say B.
I think it's a B one as well. I think it's something that, upon actually watching after hearing about how revered the movie is, I can see the elements of it that are revered and the fact they just feel like the first like real Bond movie. But I feel it doesn't live up to the hype, from my perspective.
Yeah, I think when you watch Dr. No and From Russia with Love, and then you watch that and you go, okay, now we're getting into, James Bond. I get
Now
it.
he's Bond.
Now he's Bond, literally. And I think that's why that movie is so highly regarded. But I'm going B tier at best.
Goldfinger's got a lot of classic, great, amazing, almost perfect elements. And then it's got some major flaws that are just kind of undeniable. Like, it's just got some major flaws. I mean, the dude explains his plan to everybody, kills a guy, and then kills everybody else. And then it's like, why didn't you just kill them all? Like, what,
Well, because it's that monologuing. Like, he could kill James Bond. He had him. He could just walked away. But no, he had to fly out of an airplane with the best graphics for that. Just
So, I mean, we had Goldfinger and Thunderball right around the same range. I am not as big on Thunderball as I am on Goldfinger, so I would lean more towards C tier for Thunderball.
I think Thunderball's better. I think
so.
Thunderball's a better movie than Goldfinger, so I'd put it in B alongside it. I definitely don't think it's A level, but
Low B. Low B, I can see it being.
Is that 2 Bs for now? Or not 2 Bs? It's not the question. Where do we go next? I'm not big on For Your Eyes Only. I think that that's one of the weaker entries in a lot of ways because everything that they do better in another movie. Yeah, like I said before, Columbo, Corinne Bay's better. Melina, tell me her personality. She's got pretty eyes, and she's vengeful. Well, so is a lot of other people.
I think it's a definitively forgettable one. Again, it's right next to Octopussy in the series as well, and I think most people probably say they're the 2 movies that once you've watched, you just forget about instantly afterwards.
Yeah, I can't go anywhere higher than D. I'd lean more towards E for Your Eyes Only.
Out of respect, I would instinctively say D, but it doesn't live in the memory, so E.
Yeah, I'm fine with putting it in E as well.
E for eyes. Look at that. Just narrowly avoids F for 4. 4 eyes. It's a glasses joke.
Very good, Teddy.
We
haven't put anything in C yet.
Yeah, you know what? Let's try.
I know what a C movie is. Well, at least in my opinion. The Spy Who Loved Me.
Yeah, I could see that. I kind of lean a little bit more towards D for The Spy Who Loved Me, because there's some great parts, of course. Like, we've talked about it, of course, when we ran down the movie. Jaws is great. I like Anya. But I don't ever feel like I want to watch it. After being a fan of the series for 20... How many years? When did I get into that? That would have been 1997, I think. That's when I first got into that. So how many years is that? 24 years? I've seen that one of the least amount of times.
Well, I'll say it's D for me, but I can hear an argument for C tier. Well, actually, you know what? I have it. Yeah, I do have it kind of in that D range, so I don't know. But it's definitely in the middle range.
Well, I have it definitively in my top 10 Bond movies. I would definitely watch it again. I think this is where Jaws is at its best in this movie.
Definitely.
All the Moonraker stuff. I feel like I was a big fan of Anya. This is where you get introduced to Gogol as well. And I just felt like this one is essentially the same plot as Moonraker, which is why I would push Moonraker. Moonraker's fun as well, and so I might even put them in the same sort of level. But it's just a case of, I feel Moonraker is just this copied over, but set in space.
See, I like Moonraker more, and
it's the same movie.
I'd put there's elements of it that I just find more fun. Like, I like Corinne Dufour better than Naomi, for instance, and I like the scene of Corinne being attacked and killed by the dogs more than Bond blowing up Naomi in the helicopter. Or I like Drax better than Stromberg. Or I like the opening sequence better of the falling out of the airplane and tumbling around with the parachute and everything in Moonraker more than I do the Union Jack flag for Spy Who Loved Me. Like, I'd make the case that Moonraker should be C.
Yeah, I would make the case that Moonraker is C as well, but I think The Spy Who Loved Me is pretty much, in many ways, an identical movie to it, other than the fact that one of them is set in space and the other one is set under the sea.
Under the sea.
Yeah, it's you can't tell me it's not the same plot.
Oh no, it's exactly the same. Like, it's just you do a different version of the same movie, yeah.
Yeah, and I would say that Anya's a more compelling Bond girl.
I forget where I rank the two of them. I think they might be somewhere in the same range, but I think that Holly I have higher.
What do you have against the good doctor named Holly Goodhead?
I just feel that Anya she's more on Bond's level, I feel. I know Holly was obviously intelligent and would push back on him a lot, but Anya's a spy like Bond. I just feel like there's a bit more of a connection there. And again, it's at the point where there's still tension between the West and Russia and stuff like that. So I feel like this one may be more important for... It just tells a nice story about the fact that, like, oh, you're on different sides, but you're working together for a common cause, that type of thing.
I could see the argument of just keeping them in the same tier. I think I'll second the C tier for that, because it is kind of like, to me, it'd be lower C tier, but we're not bothering to do like, C minus, C plus, that kind of bullshit, because that's just way too much.
Well, especially if you look at the other two movies that we've got in D tier, and
that's where I was getting at, because I'm like, yeah, because Spy Who Loved Me is better than Dr. No, and then yeah. Where are we putting The Man with the Golden Gun? Because Man with the Golden Gun is very high up on our list.
That's A tier at the least.
I'd agree. It's an A.
That's where I was leaning more towards. So look at that. That's easy. A tier. Okay, with that out of the way.
To be honest, that strength from my resolve that The Living Daylights needs to go down one.
See, I think that Living Daylights is still A tier. What about you, Rob?
I think Living Daylights. Yeah, I could see Living Daylights going down to B. But
At one
License to
point, you had it
Kill.
at the number 1 rank.
I know, but retrospective, and you take some time to really think of that. Man with the Golden Gun is easily Moore's best and one of the easiest Bond movies to watch. That's an A tier. License to Kill is as well. I do like The Living Daylights, but if it's going to go, I do have it below Goldfinger. I put Goldfinger in B. So.
Oh, and that's more so 2 votes for Living Daylights going down to B. Very disappointed, but hey, that's how the math works. So I think, all right, based off of these, I think it's safe to say none of these that are going on here are going to go on S tier.
Mm-hmm.
And I would make the case that even though, like, I know that I would put From Russia with Love in either A or B. I'd lean more towards A. I know that Callum's on the totally opposite end of the spectrum and Rob's dead center. So I know that we're going to go somewhere in another range here. I know A is off the board. I'm going to say I'm definitely not voting F because I think it's one of the better ones. So kind of almost mathematically, are we all going to have to put it in C just because I have it towards the top, Callum's got it towards the bottom, and Rob's got it in the middle?
I'm thinking C right now.
I think that'll be like the balanced one, yeah, because it's not going any higher as far as I'm concerned.
And then the same kind of applies to Honor Majesty's Secret Service because it's in the exact same boat.
No, it's too significant a Bond movie to put it C tier.
It is, Tony. Like, you really significantly undersold the weight that this movie would have on the plot of the franchise moving forward.
Well, it's got one element of that, and that's Tracy.
But it's the one element.
Yeah. It's a movie that touches so many other movies going forward.
Freaking
Whereas
Lazenby,
if Rush from Love didn't exist, it wouldn't change the franchise in any way. On Her Majesty's Secret Service is too important a role. So I'm saying it can't go any lower than B. And I think Rob would back me up on that.
Yeah, I'd have to agree because first of all, it's not that bad of a film, and
they got that Christmas tree song.
It's a great film. I mean, if it's my soul tier list, it's an S tier one.
Right.
But it's like, I understand that that's not going to be the case, but I can't put it on C as like saying like, oh, it's because we're trying to balance it out. Like, no, this movie's influence extends past what you see in the actual 2 and a bit hours that it's on.
All right, so it goes in B.
Yeah,
you guys win.
Yeah,
that's math again. You know. Where do we go next?
Let's talk Brosnan. Let's talk Tomorrow Never Dies and World Is Not Enough, because I have them ranked basically neck and neck, but I had The World Is Not Enough just slightly above. These movies are great, and I'm making an argument that they should both be an A tier.
I'd lean more towards B, but I can maybe see an argument for A, but I definitely lean more towards B.
I mean, I would go Tomorrow Never Dies as the A out of those two. To me, it's the best Brosnan Bond movie. So I would put it in A, and I'd put The World Is Not Enough in B.
I'd make a slight push for World's Not Enough to get and just sneak into the A tier just because Electra's great. You know, that's really sadly the last good Brosnan film. But I don't know, Tony, it's all on you. A or B for World's Not Enough.
Good. Yeah, I just enjoyed. I think the villain is. Well, I'd say the villain is better. Right? I mean, Elliot Carver and Electra King are both like high up there. Renard is Renard. But yeah, I just felt like the sort of like Paris involvement, Dr. Kaufman. So that was so great in Tomorrow Never Dies. And yeah, I just thought that was. I think Wei Lin is a better Bond girl than Christmas Jones.
See, yeah, that's the thing is like, if you can take half of either of these films, it's like A+. And then the other elements that are kind of weak, the other one kind of balances out a little bit. I'm not as big on Wei Lin, but I'm really not big on Christmas Jones. Electra is great. I like Paris. and then you get like you got like somebody like a Kaufman who's great in Tomorrow Never Dies, but Tomorrow Never Dies has Stamper, who I think sucks, but it's also got Gupta, who I like.
I was a big fan. I was a big fan of Stamper. So,
and then World's Not Enough has Elektra, of course, who's great, but it's got Gabor and Bullion, who I think are shit, and then Renard, who he's solid, but he got some flaws, and you got Zukovsky, he's great. Tomorrow Never Dies, though, has, if you're going with like, action sequences, for instance, it's got like the car sequence inside the parking lot. Man, that's tough. I think we need to revisit those. I'll put them in where we were tentatively at, where it was TND at an A and Twine and B, but I'm gonna come back to those.
Fair enough.
I think it's good to balance out like to me, I revisit The Living Daylights infinitely more than I do Goldfinger, which I think is even easier to watch than Thunderball. So to me, there's a big difference between these three. And then sometimes that can be a difference maker or something, but Live and Let Die, I feel, is a B or a C.
I'll put this out there right now, as I said in the beginning of this. I don't know why the hell Live and Let Die is in my bottom 4. Not gonna change it at this very moment, but that's dead wrong of me. I'd say it's at least a C tier.
I have like mixed feelings towards Live and Let Die because I feel like it's a lot of fun to watch. It's definitely a really easy watch, and there's some really kooky chases, and I was a big fan of Kananga and Teehee. I think they were great villains. The Solitaire story is really problematic to watch.
Really problematic, bro. That's, to me, that one was worse than Pussy Galore.
It's got more of a creep factor to it than the Pussy Galore one, but it's one of those things, like, as we'll talk about, like You Only Live Twice and stuff like that. There's one of those elements that just goes like, you can watch this and like just, you have to say with the proviso of it was another time, because you can't just. It's not a movie that, let's say, if I was on a date or anything like that, it's not a movie that I'd ever propose watching. Because
it's harder
especially
to
someone who's like completely unfamiliar with the franchise is like, hey, he just like tricked that woman into fucking him, and now she's gonna die because of it. It's just like, yeah, he's the hero.
Yeah.
See, with that one, I can see at that time they're probably like, oh, isn't it? Oh, that James, look at how he tricked her. But to me, looking back on it, that's more manipulative and sick than Sean Connery's Bond just being like, come on, what do you say?
There's one thing. The thing about Live and Let Die, it can really be imagined, like, just the overall movie can be kind of viewed in the same way that the Baron Samedi character can be viewed. In that Baron Samedi is one of the most memorable Bond villains, just because of his look, his impression, and everything like that. But then when you actually watch the movie, he does fuck all. He doesn't do anything, and he dies really quickly and easily. And it's just a case of, that's how I feel about Live and Let Die. It's like, it's got so many bonkers things and so many memorable stuff, like J.W. Pepper for all his flaws and stuff like that. It does have some really cool, interesting, fun things. But as an actual movie, it's all over the fucking place. And it's racist, and it's got other elements of it as well. It's racist, and it's got like that stuff with Solitaire, and it's deeply problematic in areas. I just feel like
it's bonkers for sure.
Yeah, so I don't know whether it's C or D, definitely, because I feel like it's too fun to go in the really bad ones. I would lean towards. Again, it's difficult. I would lean towards D out of those ones, just because I feel like it's got too many problems.
If we were ranking the death of the main villain, where are we putting the balloon death?
See, that's the other part of this. Like, when you get to ranking these movies and stuff, is at what point do you go serious or do you go fun? And like, Live and Let Die, to me, nowhere near a serious type of Bond film. If I was going to say to somebody like, hey, you want to watch a good movie? Watch Casino Royale. But if you want to watch a good movie, then it's like, yo, Live and Let Die is fucking crazy. You know? So, like, I would say that, like, Kananga gets a pressurized bullet, turns into a balloon, and pops. That's B tier kind of garbage to me.
It's a good time.
So we're thinking kind of, I'm leaning more towards B, Callum's more towards D, and Rob was saying
I said
C.
So that's great. We're dead.
That's more of a C then.
Yeah, it's a C.
A View to a Kill is another one that movie has so many weird things about it. You got Zorin, who is great. He's hamming it up. You got Mayday, who's fucking great.
When we're ranking main henchmen, Mayday, I'm gonna make a case for the top. Mayday was great.
She's gonna be up there, that's for sure. And then, like, all the great stuff comes with all the bad, because half the movie revolves around horses, and another half the movie revolves around Stacy.
Where do you feel most comfortable, Tony?
In the saddle.
Okay.
So where are we gonna saddle this?
It just there are things that I just remember from this movie, like the I mean, this is the Plenty of Tool movie.
No, it's Diamonds.
It's Diamonds. Yeah, it's Diamonds. Yeah, I confuse it because it's a casino, because the casino thing where this happens in. Yeah, well, it's definitely the one with the fucking fire truck.
Yeah.
And that's just
Roger Moore, 60 years old, wearing a leather jacket, trying to be Mr. Suave dude, like that. He's got the big ass goggles, you know.
Yeah. It's like, this is the one where you start feeling like, wow, these body doubles are getting paid overtime on this stuff, really.
This is the one with Jenny Flex and the whole Sir Godfrey Tibbett, where he's like bullying him around, you know, come along, Tibbett, stop wheezing and all that. Like, there's gems in there, but it's kind of D tier.
Yeah. It's another like insane one, but I don't know. It's definitely C or D for me.
I feel like it's more on par with Octopussy.
Oh yeah, the California girl things.
Yeah.
Don't you just like what a great scene.
Yeah, probably do. Yeah, I imagine. But like, part of me likes that more than Live and Let Die, just because I feel like it's like they're both equally insane. I just feel like the second one's a slightly better overall put together movie because of Zorin and Mayday.
I've watched them around the same amount of times because View to a Kill's a fun watch. It's just bad in a lot of ways. Like,
I mean, peak 85 though. Like, you watch it and you know exactly the era that you're in.
Yeah, I don't think it's like out of place there. I just like just looking back on my just overall rankings, like I have them right next to each other with A View to a Kill one higher than Live and Let Die. So, but yeah, I don't disagree with that being there.
And I've got A View to a Kill and Octopussy right around there. So yeah, makes sense to me. So we're not so big on these three. They're certainly they're not going S tier, they're not going A tier, they're not going B tier, I would think. Highest can make an argument for C tier. I don't even think necessarily C tier, but if anybody, like these are people, if any of these are going to be C tier, I would think more of a case for Spectre.
Spectre's probably the most likely to go and see. And I don't think it's out of place there. I just feel it's the main villain is the big glaring issue of Spectre. And there's also other elements of the fact that I just don't feel like Mr. Hinks's backstory or his real character or his motivations are properly explained.
He's a wordsmith. What are you talking about?
I feel like...
Because if you think about it, C tier is definitively middle of the road. You got three bad... Like, if this is... best, very good, good. Then you got middle of the road, disappointing, bad, terrible, in a way. Then if you go middle of the road, like Spectre's kind of a middle of the road movie. There's some good stuff to it, and there's a lot of just like, wow, that's bland, and then that's bad. It's got a little bit of everything.
I think C's fine for it. I feel like it's carried by the strength of Craig's performance and the supporting cast of allies around him, really. And then it's brought down by Christoph Waltz being too hammy and the fucking long lost brothers story and all that other stuff. I would say it's disappointing, but it's not bad. And that's like I guess it's the way you would put it in C tier. It's just like, in terms of actual just overall quality, there's a lot of things that you could say it should be in a higher tier, but in terms of just like how it leaves you feeling at the end of it, it's somewhat disappointing.
Look, I've had time to think about it. I think that long lost brother shit ruins the whole hey, let's do a through line and Bond movies that are actually interconnected. Fuck that. I'm your long lost brother. No, I can't wait till they redo the series and just totally retcon that.
The next part of the franchise is going to be the two of them running a brother's business with the delicatessen.
Stainless steel.
Yeah.
All right. For your eyes only, S tier. Let's go. Spectre, probably C is about as high as I can go, but I'd even listen to D.
Well, we know what C stands for. Spectre.
Clueless.
Careless. Good. I think Quantum of Solace needs to go D tier, if not E tier.
Yeah, Quantum is it's just a disappointing follow up to a movie. It's basically like a DLC to Casino Royale.
Yeah, it's kind of.
Yeah, it's exactly.
Because it's just the Green is weak, Elvis is absolute garbage, Camille's okay, Strawberry Fields, come on. They do the oil thing, which is just like, hey, remember Goldfinger? Fuck yeah, I do. It's a better movie. The horrible editing. The script's just not there. Yeah. I hate how they got the whole Another Way to Die thing. The song itself has its catchy elements to it and everything, but obviously we're going to rank that eventually too. But there's too much wrong with it. To me, that's Die Another Day level in its own ways.
I mean, I don't think I'd go as far as that because there are elements I like, but I think also when you look at it contextually, where it's sat right between Casino Royale and Skyfall, it just highlights how
disappointing it is.
Yeah, just how far removed it is from those two movies. The fact he sits right in between, it's just like, what happened here? Like, who did you hire to do this one? Why did you even bother with that approach? So I don't know whether I'd go E. I would personally put it in D because I still think there are elements of it that I enjoy enough. I don't think because if we're saying like E is a bad movie, I don't think Quantum of Solace is a bad movie. I think it's a disappointing one. I'd put that D for disappointing.
So that's D and E. Where are you standing, Rob?
I'll say D for disappointing.
All right, so I'll bump that up a little bit. And that leaves You Only Live Twice, and then to settle officially on TND and Twine. You Only Live Twice is certainly not going to go anywhere other than D, E, or F because man, there's some fun parts of You Only Live Twice, but god damn, are there some parts that aren't good? Like Blofeld. The look of Blofeld is fine, but he is problematic as hell. And you kill off Aki just to make Kissy Suzuki do nothing, but Aki's great. And Tiger Tanaka is great. Connery does not want to fucking be there.
Mm.
It's racist, of course.
Racist. You have the this is all I have the karate school, isn't it?
No, that was the Golden Gun. Well, this one's got the ninja training facility.
That's what I meant. That's what I meant. The ninja training
where
facility,
the two of them infiltrate. And they just kind of go about things like the one tries to kill Bond and he just stabs him. And then it's just kind of like, oh, like,
yeah.
Aki just died yesterday. Like,
Yeah, exactly. It's just, there's so much of this movie that's just so completely off the wall. And I understand that, like, the biggest redeeming feature of this movie for me is that giant base.
Yeah.
Because that just looks impressive. But then when the people inside of it, especially Blofeld, are just so hammy and weak-willed. It was like, because we got introduced to Blofeld already. It's like, oh, this guy's the big bad. This guy's the guy who's pulling all the strings, and like he's the guy behind all the villains that Bond has been facing up until this point. And then when you actually introduced him in the flesh, he's just so lame.
Oh, kill Bond now!
Yeah, and it's just like the bit where he's got Bond at gunpoint for about 30 seconds, and then eventually when he is going to do it, Bond just deals with himself, ow, and just like has to stop running away. It's just...
This isn't the one where Bond shoots at him and it goes, wrong pussy, right?
That's
Diamonds Are Forever.
Yeah.
So I think it's got to be on par with Diamonds.
Well, yeah, but I mean, these are two worst. I mean, you can say what you want about like the one in the Blofelds in Spectre and on Her Majesty's Secret Service, but I think this one is the Die Another Day, not Die Another Day, Diamonds Are Forever Bond. Blofeld are the worst Blofelds of the entire series.
It sucks because like Donald Pleasance could have done a great job, but they just make him goofy and weird and just like Kissy Suzuki is kind of just a nothing character. I mean, I understand why you kill off Aki because you're trying to build up sympathy, and it's just like Aki was a more memorable Bond girl. So if you had like Kissy Suzuki die in her place, like you were introduced to Kissy Suzuki and then she just dies, then you just don't feel anything towards it. So the understanding is like, okay, we've killed off like the girl that Bond was actually interested in, and now he's got like a bit more of a vendetta to do it. But then you just introduce this other girl and give her no real personality other than the fact that she won't sleep with Bond straight away. And that they introduce her as she's got a face like a pig, which is just like, oof. She doesn't. Yeah. She's cute. What the hell, you know? Like it's that's a different story. Yeah. But
and just like again the racist stuff about like in Japan men come first, that type of.
Well, you also have the whole they put the makeup on him for no fucking reason because he doesn't look the slightest bit Japanese, and then it just disappears when he gets onto the volcanic base. So it's utterly pointless.
Well, he's trying to be a spy. This it's a spy movie.
Yeah, you only have choices. It's E tier.
Yeah, it's A. Yeah. I would argue it's F, but it's like.
So then, settling on TND and World's Not Enough. Have you guys switched up your opinions, any of you, or am I still making the?
They're solid A's. TND has my favorite main villain death. World's Not Enough is maybe the most fun I've had watching these movies. Period.
Oh wait, so there's 2 votes for A tier then for Tomorrow Never Dies.
Yeah.
Okay, so then that's
I think it's A tier. Yeah,
it's a solid A at least.
And then B for World's Not Enough or A.
That comes down to you.
Man, I hate to say that World's Not Enough gets a higher spot than Living Daylights, just because my personal preferences, but I do kind of think that maybe World's Not Enough could be justified as a triple threat kind of ranking as A tier, because it is one of the ones that I've watched one of the most amount of times. I do think that there's overwhelmingly more positives than negatives. I mean, it's got the line, Christmas only comes once a year. Like it's got the end of Q with hidden fading down.
Oh, God.
Like Lecture's got some great stuff. I love having Zukovsky back. The score has some really good stuff to it.
M is quite heavily involved in that movie as well.
That's the first movie that really gives M a solid 1-2 punch. Yeah. It's A tier for that one. So this would be our tier list ranking, unless we change anything. I don't think that we necessarily...
I've got one thing we can change.
What's that?
Let's put Diamonds Are Forever in the F tier.
Oh, I'm totally up for that then. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I'll allow it. That movie's a lot of fun.
Because
he does wrong pussy, for God's sake.
They got the wrong... You got fucking Willard White. Jimmy Dean is playing Willard White in it and just being, the Bambi and Thumper. You turn Bambi. Like...
I mean, I like Bambi and Thumper, but that's besides the point. It's more the fact that Bond has to kill multiple Blofelds in this movie before he actually gets the one, and we don't even see him fucking die.
He gets
Okay,
with the fucking crane at the end, and
so
we
come
got
on now.
Mr. Wint and Mr. Kid with the. I mean, Mr. Wint and Mr. Kid are great in their own ways, but at the same
I
time,
like Mr. Winter with the kid. Yeah.
Mr. Wint dies because he gets, his crotch jammed up into it, just woo and all that. Like, that's fucking F tier. That's really shit.
For that era, they were doing okay with not getting too homophobic, and then they just went, woo! It's like, oh, okay.
I think it is kind of important to call attention to, like, as bad as there are elements of You Only Live Twice and Die Another Day, Diamonds Are Forever was so campy and so funny that could have killed the franchise.
Yeah.
Connery said so himself. I was watching an interview just yesterday where he was like, yeah, I liked playing Bond as a serious character. Diamonds was too much.
I did it for the money. Yeah, just
it's a totally like rewatchable movie.
Yeah,
but
it's
so's The Room.
fun. It's just
so's The Room, but The Room's not winning any Oscars.
Yeah, I've seen The Room I think 3 times.
Yeah,
and the Disaster Artist ones. So then that opens up the discussion.
You're tearing me apart, Tiffany.
Yeah.
I speak English.
Oh, hi, Q. So if we're going Mount Rushmore, now for anybody who hasn't checked out a Mount Rushmore thing, we did one on Fanboys before of the Mount Rushmore of Batman villains, and we've done about like a dozen maybe for Smart Out Moment for pro wrestling stuff. Essentially what the Mount Rushmore is the 4 that are the tentpole definitive, maybe not necessarily the top best, but the 4 that can represent the series. So for pro wrestlers, for instance, we weren't ranking our 4 best professional wrestlers. We were ranking somebody like a Ric Flair, who was like super influential and changed the game. And a lot of people do consider one of the best of all time and all that. I feel like one of the arguments for sure is Casino Royale, and another one of them is GoldenEye. And I feel like they're definitely locks.
GoldenEye is a lock for me. Casino Royale is probably a lock for me as well. I'm sure like this is where like a Goldfinger comes into play, where you're like, I don't know.
That's where there's some debate. I feel like GoldenEye is what saved the franchise in a lot of ways, and most people have that ranked, if not number 1, it's up there in their top list. The game, highly influential. Brosnan kicks ass in the role. All the characters are fantastic. The action's great. The music's great. It checks off all the boxes. And it is like, most people, if you said name a Bond film, if they're not of the older generation, GoldenEye's the one they're going to go to. And then Casino Royale, the other Martin Campbell movie, saves the franchise from Die Another Day. It defines another whole era. It's arguably the best overall film of the bunch. Redefines Bond in his own kind of ways. I think that it's going to be extremely hard to come up with an argument that could bump either one of these 2 off. Skyfall, I don't feel as much about being a Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, I don't think it's Mount Rushmore either. Even if it's like the one that I enjoy the most, I don't feel like it has the same weight.
And then, like, even though License to Kill is my number 2 favorite, I don't think License to Kill can be Mount Rushmore, because a lot of people don't feel the same way. And
as much as I like both of the Dalton movies, it holds no weight in the overall legacy of the franchise.
License definitely makes a bigger impression, but there's a lot of people that really don't like License to Kill for how much darker it was. And
Hello.
Yeah.
Honestly, whenever I think of License, that's where my mind goes.
I would lean more towards potentially. I'll do it this way. This will be kind of interesting. I think that there's a case for Goldfinger. I think that there's a case for On Her Majesty's Secret Service, despite the fact that I'm not as big of a fan of it. I think there's a case From Russia with Love for setting the tone for a lot of things, because if they wouldn't have changed some of the ways that they did things, like From Russia with Love has the opening pre-title sequence. It's got the gun barrel. It's got the introduction of Q and a real gadget for the first time. It establishes some of the overall ideas of some of the characters. Like, we really kind of start fleshing out Moneypenny's relationship a little bit more and M's relationship a little bit more. But then again, I feel like sometimes there's an argument for Much With Love and Goldfinger kind of overlap. So yeah, that's another thing. Almost kind of feels like in some ways there should be a Roger Moore one. And if there is a Roger Moore one, I feel like that can bounce around between a couple different ones. I don't think it's as strong of a case for The Man with the Golden Gun, despite the fact that it's one of my favorites. I'd kind of lean more towards The Spy Who Loved Me for that one. Just because that one does kind of... It's the third one for Moore, but it kind of resets Roger Moore a little bit. You know what I mean?
I would say I'm looking at Golden Gun for a Moore film. I'm looking at Goldfinger as an overall, like, it defined the series. And then I think, even though freaking Lazenby only gets the one, I think that one might actually be on the Mount Rushmore.
Well, that would be 5 spots.
I know, but I'm saying, as far as the ones I'm in the discussion for, it's those.
Well, I know what my Mount Rushmore would be. And it's already not going to be that.
Yours would be Casino Royale, Skyfall, Secret Service, and
I mean, you're already wrong.
Oh wait, you wouldn't have Skyfall.
That's
right.
You wouldn't have Skyfall.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be Casino Royale, The Man with the Golden Gun on Her Majesty's Secret Service, and probably Goldfinger.
So we can kind of all agree on Goldfinger then.
Yeah, I'd put Goldfinger on it.
Yeah,
Goldfinger's got Shirley Bassey too. It's got the car that comes back constantly. Yeah, Goldfinger's on there. Okay, so it's a matter of the fourth one.
So, I think Moore should be on there. That's the issue I'm having here. Is I really feel like Moore deserves a spot because he defines so much of this series.
Man, it's a shame Roger Moore was not in On Her Majesty's Secret Service and Diamonds Are Forever and just, that kind of thing.
Like, he really does define so much of this. But On Her Majesty's Secret Service, it does have that pivotal plot point that even some of the better films can't say they carry over.
I guess here's the argument. Does one plot point in Secret Service weigh more or less than Moore doing the things he does in The Spy Who Loved Me that becomes what many people consider to be Bond? Because for a whole generation, Spy Who Loved Me, Moonraker, For Your Eyes Only, Octopussy, and A View to a Kill, even more so than Live and Let Die and The Man with the Golden Gun, those 4 movies are Bond. Not for me, but, for other people. Or those 5 movies.
Well, if we're doing a Moore, it wouldn't be Spy Who Loved Me. If I have a say in it, and I think if Callum does, it's Golden Gun.
Well, yeah, like the fact that you mentioned like Spy Who Loved Me, like we're not going to put The Spy Who Loved Me on the Mount Rushmore.
Then I would lean more towards On Her Majesty's Secret Service than The Man with the Golden Gun.
Oh yeah, well, On Her Majesty's Secret Service is like a definitive Mount Rushmore movie.
Yeah,
it's not only, in my opinion, it's one of the best Bond movies. It's the one that carries the most weight throughout the rest of the.
Got the
franchise.
iconic shot too with the parachute.
Yeah, and realistically, I would prefer to have. I would prefer to have a Moore movie on there if I had the option, but I know one of those movies isn't going to get taken off. So, and like, I'd be happy with either The Man with the Golden Gun or The Spy Who Loved Me to be not involved in it, but they're not moving On Her Majesty's Secret Service. They're almost certainly not moving Goldfinger off. So,
and for the people that would make the argument, Dr. No should be on there because it's first. Just being first doesn't mean that it supersedes what some of the other things are. So
Yep, Washington's on the Mount Rushmore, but so is Roosevelt.
and to some people, Lincoln's the best president of all time, and you know, there's arguments for a lot of those things. If we ended up doing like, which we're not going to do, but like if we ended up doing like, hey, you pick one from each bond, obviously Lazenby gets his, but like I'd say more than likely like the Connery one's Goldfinger, of course GoldenEye is the one that we get, you know, Casino Royale and like License to Kill, and then for more, then you guys would vote for Golden Gun. Even though I like Golden Gun significantly better than all the other ones. Culturally, I think Spy Who Loved Me means more, but then again, we're not picking the way that those are. We're picking the Mount Rushmore, and this is our Mount Rushmore. So suck it if you disagree. I don't know. I think this is pretty much locked in, right?
I would say so.
All right, so that's how this is going to work for the other ones as well. We're going to be doing those for, you know, the Bond girls, the Bond villains, the henchmen, the allies, etc. And I don't know. Yeah,
We're doing them for the theme songs, right?
Theme songs, yeah, that's another one of them. We're not going to do that for the gadgets. We're going to do just kind of like a different overhaul of the gadgets.
That's because you guys are cowards and you don't want to put the Ghetto Blaster as the top gadget.
It's more so that there's just way too many gadgets. Because
S tier, Mount Rushmore, Ghetto Blaster, the greatest thing Q Branch ever created.
We might do a Mount Rushmore of the gadgets, yeah, but not breaking it down into the tiers, because I'm not going to go through and list every single one of the gadgets and do all that. We'd be here all day. But this is how we're going with our master list. Again, this is our estimated combo ranking of everything, just to show the difference maker between like a Goldfinger and a Thunderball not being too far off the list for our combined. But then individual lists, you know, we've got some differences for the way that some of these play out. Goldfinger much lower on Callum's there. I forgot about that. So, by all means, drop a comment below. Tell us where you would rank these, where you think that certain things fall in the Mount Rushmore. If you think that you should make a case for like, hey, man, what are you guys talking about? If You Do a Kill should be on the Mount Rushmore or something, then, yeah, make the case.
I'd love to hear your case.
I would love to hear it, too. And, of course, keep following everything that's happening here on A Review to a Kill. Show your support by hitting the like button, hitting the share button, hitting the subscribe button, ringing the notification bell, donating to the Patreon or the join membership side things of YouTube. Keep following FanboysAnonymous.com. Check out pro wrestling stuff over on SmartCap Moment. Follow our social media accounts. I'm at Tony Mango. Rob is at Dude Felice.
Yep, and if you like pro wrestling, check out everything I've got going on. But right now, I won't weigh you down with the wrestling plugs. Just follow at Dude Felice on everything that you possibly can. And Callum's at Wigmaster14, right, Callum?
Yep, follow me on Twitter at Wigmaster14. Check out SmartCap Moment, all the weekly articles and all the other great stuff. And yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Alrighty, so we're going to continue on with another episode of From Recap with Love, as our subculture, not the subcategory, that's the word for it, of A Review to a Kill, which will return in the next edition. And we'll see you there, everybody.